Hi everybody, Jason, Devil Mountain Diesel, Walnut Creek, California. Sorry we're late, we're supposed to be here at 12. Go figure, we were talking to a customer about their 6-liter. As many of you know, that's a thing that happens, they break. That's why we're here. Today we were actually going to take a minute to talk about EGR coolers. We get a lot of questions all these years later on a truck that was produced from 03 to 2007. People still don't necessarily understand exactly what fails and why. Things that we take as commonplace. I've done 1,000 EGR coolers, so I assume everyone knows what an EGR cooler is. Not everybody knows what an EGR cooler is. So let's talk about that. EGR stands for exhaust gas recirculation, which a lot of people have heard for a long time. Some of the older clientele might remember the 70s. The stories I used to hear as I was just a wee lad in the 70s. NOx kits, emissions systems that got added to small block Chevys back in the 70s, and they're trying to correct the emissions gas NOx, which is a byproduct of cylinder temperature. So which fast forward many years later leads us to the factory installed forever and ever EGR valves, which in our diesel segment led to eventually EGR coolers. Ford, like many manufacturers, ran EGR coolers that weren't very reliable. Probably one of the number one failed components in a 6-liter production Power Stroke diesel engine is the EGR cooler. I'm going to show you one. We have, so this is a used, 120,000 mile EGR cooler, virtually unchanged from 2005 to 2007, and what you can see is the internals here. It looks like a radiator, and what happens is over time this piece sits on top of the engine and has coolant that runs through it, but more importantly has exhaust gas that runs through it. So you have exhaust gas that comes in the end from the turbo up pipe, flows through and then out into the intake manifold. And so what happens is you have something that's very hot. You have hot coolant, you have hot exhaust gases flowing through it constantly, almost. And so what happens is over time, this little chintzy radiator that Ford put together in here, as this piece, as it heats up and cools down, it expands and contracts. And what happens is the welds that are inside of here, they fail. And so this component ruptures. Well, like we had said, we have coolant inside of this. What happens when it ruptures is now your coolant that was contained in here goes directly out of the back and into the turbo up pipe. And so that is not good. You have an exhaust system that's supposed to have exhaust gas in it, now is full of coolant, which can be as simple as white smoke out the tailpipe, which can also be as catastrophic as a hydrolocked mechanical engine failure. And in a lot of cases, just over time, you'll see pitting in the cylinder walls from the coolant sitting in the combustion chamber. So all of which is bad. Now, fortunately, all these years later, there's companies, but one company in particular, who has changed the narrative on EGR coolers, and that's Bulletproof Diesel. And Bulletproof Diesel was the original and has since created the only bulletproof diesel EGR cooler, and it's the only one I'll sell and install. It's carb certified in California. And again, this is for a 2005, 2007 6-liter diesel. And this is the newest of the new. This is the H core, which from the outside might look very similar as what I was holding earlier, just cleaner, now that I put fingerprints on it. But what's cool is on the inside. And so at the end, you can see now tubes. And the H core, what makes this so special is this is I'm going to use the word proprietary. This is Bulletproof Diesel's creation, and you have tubes instead of that little radiator we had in the other one. And so what you see is if you look really close inside of here, you see some twisty tubes, and that's kind of a nickname of sorts for the H core. And so what happens is you have a series of not spiral wound, but tubes that are twisted together and stretched at the same time. And so what happens is it acts like a spring. And so this cooler still does exactly the same thing. Coolant through, coolant out, exhaust gas in, exhaust gas out. But what's different about it is that as it expands and contracts, it acts like a spring on the inside. And so these things still expand and contract, but now the failure point is removed. And so you won't have the opportunity for the welds to fail and for the coolant to ever introduce itself into the exhaust system. So this component, it does carry a lifetime warranty for workmanship. I've never warrantied one, which is a kudos to Bulletproof Diesel and the product they put out. But they do stand behind every product they make. So at the end of the day, if you have a Ford 6-liter or if you have a modern diesel with an EGR cooler of any type, Bulletproof Diesel is your home for that upgrade so that the failure doesn't come to you. So I'm sure at some point we're new to the Instagram Live, and we'll like to grow this as much as we can to start putting some of the truth out there about some of the misconceptions. Why does my truck fail? What went wrong? And how do we remedy it? And ultimately, we have some ideas here that have been pretty successful for a long time about how to fix these trucks. And with the right parts and pieces, they can be ultra reliable and all the things that Ford intended them to be that maybe they didn't do so well with from the factory version. So as time goes on and these trucks become on the secondary market or the third market, they become much more price inviting. They're very sort of an opportunity for a lot of people to get into the diesel game. But what that does mean is that a lot of people are new to the diesel game and need to learn a little more about what they're driving and how to remedy it when it does break, because all mechanical things will break in time eventually. And so ultimately it's just about having the right information about how to put it together. So Tuesday is Truck Tuesday. If you like what you see, we're going to try to get some more product, some more content out there as time goes on. We'll keep you posted. So follow the page.
We do have a question.
Oh, fire away. I love a question.
From a customer who has installed installed this on their 2007 F-250, and he is asking, what about correct fitting on hot and cold side charge pipes that fit right?
Well, so that's a slightly different component. So the charge pipes, without deviating too far away from our subject, but those are what move the air from the turbocharger through the intercooler and then back to the intake manifold. And so as far as the correct fitting, this component does not affect any of that in any way. This is the exact same mounting as a stock EGR cooler. As far as charge pipes and the fitting and that sort of operation, there are many aftermarket charge pipes on the market. Some are smog legal, some are not. But at the end of the day, the Ford pipes work really well. One of the upgrades that we like is the factory Ford. It would be the cold side pipe. You used to be able to get it in metal in the early production, then Ford switched and went to plastic. We'll actually retrofit back to the metal style. You'll have to check with your Ford dealer. Those come and go from national back order to being available. It works really well, and those pipes will fit every time with the right boots. And again, there's just a plethora of boot companies and manufacturers that make silicone boots and different clamp styles and that stuff. But at this point, like I said, this will not affect any of those mounting of the cat hoses and the routing for any of that stuff.
Awesome. Okay, it looks like we answered his question before I even got to ask it. He was asking about aftermarket charge pipes that you would recommend to use, but it looks like
I prefer a factory size charge pipe. Well, there are companies like, there are some companies out there that make larger diameter charge pipes, and the fitting of a 6-liter and the correct routing of things, when the pipes get bigger, the clearances get smaller, and so you end up putting yourself in a position for chafing and rubbing and potential damage to harnesses and coolant lines and things like that. And so for whatever performance gains you might gain from a larger diameter tube, you risk the negative effect of a failure from the secondary component. So again, it can definitely be done, and it can be done, but it's something you got to measure out the risk reward. So again, so look forward to maybe next Tuesday we'll do another Truck Tuesday, and we'll pick another system to talk about on a diesel. If you have a suggestion or something you want us to talk about, feel free to message over, and we'll add that to the lineup for the future weeks. So we appreciate your time, and have a great Tuesday.
awesome.